So, Saturday, May the 17th, you can expect the conjunction of the Sun and Uranus at Taurus. At the same hour, in opposition to this conjunction, is Juno. We have Juno also taking place. Black Moon Lilith and Vesta are in close orb and proximation, bringing significant influence, as well as the moon that is building up to conjunction with Pluto. Now, let's unpack this with what's most important about these events. First of all, let's look at the background of Taurus itself. Taurus has been a disaster since May 15th, 2018. This is pre-COVID time, okay? Just before COVID changed the world and destabilized the world and the economy, and also in what was traditionally normal for us. Taurus used to be the point in our natal chart or in our reality that we used to rely on and have our expectations on for a sense of stability, a sense of normalcy. Taurus is the earth. It is a point of stability for your entire natal birth chart. It is where your life path anchors itself in your life. So, whichever house that your natal Taurus placement occupies, that particular house is critical to stabilizing and grounding your experience of your life path. It is through that particular reality that you have your footing. There has to be stability there for you to comprehend and interact with your life path and what it is meant to mean. So that stability there is critical. Because Uranus has been coming through there, Uranus has been bringing disruption, earthquakes, even literally, as well as volcanoes in an esoteric sense. In other words, breaking apart and disrupting, shaking into a destabilizing outlook what used to be so solid in your life. Collectively, Taurus represents the values and traditions that we all collectively agreed upon, that was like a mountain. And you look to that mountain and you can't imagine it moving. It's always going to be there. So from a cultural and traditional sense, it's little things such as, for example, someone may ask pre-COVID, should boys go in the girls' bathroom? Should children learn about anal sex in the classroom? It's little things like that. And here we are in this day and age. You have Ketanji Jackson, a new member of the Supreme Court, who was asked the question, what is a woman? And because she is bought and sold by that wicked establishment, she hesitated and even refused to answer the question, and she herself is a woman. That was a betrayal to all natural women of the world for her to do that. She refused to answer that question in the way that she know she had a duty to answer it. So these are the destabilizing things that we've been experiencing. When you have Uranus going through Taurus, this also highlights transsexuals. It deals with shape-shifting of the body based on the aspirations or desires of the astral body. Those themes are now getting quieter and quieter. It used to be noisy, it used to be loud. You're hardly hearing it anymore, as Uranus is bowing out of Taurus, headed into Gemini. The earthquakes, when you have an earthquake, the ground splits. When you have volcanoes, molten lava comes from the center of the earth and changes the landscape. Everything about Uranus changes the landscape when it comes to Taurus. What you were used to, what gave you comfort, and I'm naming Taurus attributes, what gave you comfort, what gave you stability, economic confidence, traditional sense of security, self-esteem, your ethos, predictability, a sense of confidence in what is going on in the world and where do I fit in. All of that stands to be disrupted as Uranus passes through, and it's unpredictable when we have the earthquake, when we have the volcano. It's unpredictable. That is Uranus. These disruptions had to take place in order to get us to the other side. Prior to Taurus-Uranus transit, we were well invested into Rothschild and Rockefeller's ideal of what society would be. That every person, their gifts, their talents, their strength, their intelligence, their creativity, their wisdom, their talents, if I didn't mention that, it is to serve the corporations. It is to serve the corporate machine. It is to make the small percentage very rich and wealthy, powerful and strong, while stripping the identity, the free will, and the sense of fulfillment of the smaller people, which is the majority. And Uranus is here to save us from that. The disruptions were based on the fact none of us would have had the courage, the vision, the resilience to do it on our own. We would have never initiated it on our own. But because of Uranus, it comes to move what we wouldn't have the courage to move. Take away what we wouldn't have the courage to give away, to give up. We were incapable of imagining or comprehending ourselves and our lives outside of what we were so used to in the infrastructures of society. And this goes hand in hand with the Capricorn-Pluto transit, of course, in that timeline. Taurus is where we find our comfort and stability within the infrastructure of Capricorn, Pluto. Okay? Taurus is where we find our stability within that. It's where we find that which we value within that. So Taurus earthquakes, it brought disruptions, instability, unpredictability, as I mentioned, breakdown of our confidence through the Rothschild and Rockefeller social ideal, destabilization of the economy and traditions. It was a test of our self-esteem and ethos. And as you can imagine, okay, the COVID event, the COVID era, it certainly was a catalyst for Uranus to manifest a dramatic uh, unprecedented change and transformation in everything that we knew as normal. What is consistent with this is that this was during the time where Saturn was just entering into Aquarius. Saturn was just entering into Aquarius, okay? Saturn is a co-ruler of Aquarius, just as it is with Capricorn. It has a different objective through Aquarius. So with Saturn in Aquarius and Uranus at Taurus, COVID was a manifestation for that purpose. It was the catalyst that was to bring the disruption at a scale large enough to overwhelm us with disruption at a capacity out of our control. It had to happen that way. We were saved by that. The end justifies the means in this case, and we're at the end. So what justifies it now that we're at the end? What justifies it is the changing of the landscape is to show you opportunity through your own imagination. Revelation of the imagination. And we'll get to that point. But first, recall what happened to you in your life at your Taurus placement, at that theme of your life. What happened to you to bring you destabilization, instability? What happened? How were your finances affected? How was your sense of traditional normalcy affected? Your self-esteem, your sense of values, your place in life. Were you able to home in on a sense of certainty, or was it slowly dissolving and fading away? For most of us, that's the case. Now, what this can cause, or what it did cause for a lot of us, is seeking supplementation and seeking pacification. And that led to addictions and codependence. So once we're having this tragedy of earthquakes by Uranus at Taurus, it leads us to Cancer and Libra to cope. Cancer and Libra. Emotionally, we try to cope through Cancer algorithm. Socially, we try to cope through Libra. And what this did was it caused a natural exposure of what condition we were in emotionally and socially. It exposed it. That was through the North and South Node transit of Taurus and Scorpio, which was during that time period. That was the buildup. We were building up to the Taurus North Node, Scorpio South Node transit in that experience. Now, through Cancer, we started to realize, as we were forced to spend more time with each other because of COVID, that we were running away from early childhood traumas, damage, and curses. And we were seeking unhealthy means to make up for that or to compensate, which manifested many attachments that were quite unhealthy, toxic. Then when we go to Libra, we realize that we had emotional codependencies because of lack of identity, fear of rejection, wanting to fit in or be accepted. There are things about ourselves that we were forced to pay attention to. You couldn't go anywhere. Everybody was on lockdown. All the stores are closed. No going out, no clubbing. You had to sit with your clan. You had to sit with your community. You had to sit with your people. You had to sit in the third house. You had to sit in the fourth house. The third and the fourth house is where everybody had to sit. And that's what Cancer and Libra became realized to us, what we have going on there. We couldn't run away from it. Some relationships were healed as a result of that, and many people fell apart because of it. But we had to face each other, and there was a lot to learn. It took this long, even until 2025, to purge these two placements, to heal these two placements, to exercise these two placements. The South Node Libra transit, that was legendary. The Mars retrograde in Cancer transit, that was legendary. And we have succeeded through both of those transits. That is what brings us to the other side, ready to rebuild that Taurus placement. That's what arrives us on the other side of the earthquakes, the aftermath, the volcanoes, that Uranus inevitably caused at the Taurus placement, which includes also your second house. So what about Uranus, right? The sudden disruptive shock of Uranus will reconnect the heart with the life path. This is in the end, okay? In the beginning, the first and second decan of Taurus, it was about separating the heart from artificial life paths. That is what the disruption was about. That's what the earthquake was about. That's what the volcanoes were about. It was destabilizing and breaking apart the compacted earth, our roots that were grounded in artificial life paths that were not meant for our soul's journey, that were not meant for the fulfillment of the soul's journey. As I mentioned before, our commitment and devotion to the fulfillment of Rothschild Rockefeller's ideals, not the ideal of the soul itself. That is what Uranus was separating us from, or uprooting us from, through earthquake and volcano, changing the landscape to accommodate our natural order rather than the superficial order of corporate interests. Corporate interests. None of it is possible without utilizing females as useful idiots. And that is where feminism came in. Lyndon B. Johnson as well, and the welfare state. Incentivizing females to divorce, incentivizing females to marry, incentivizing females to use children as weapons in the court system. All of this went hand in hand with destabilization of the family, alienation of men and fathers in order to weaken them as the most probable or most expected rebels and revolutionaries who would resist such an unnatural system or order. So by weakening the men, silencing the men, alienating the men, it's guaranteed to endure, because who would stand up? Who would fight it? Who would resist it? Who would call it out? Put the women out front, put a battery in their back, keep the families divided. It's a very easy recipe. The women do it all now. As long as women are not educated about how this all works, it's a repeat of the same story of Adam and Eve in the garden. And when she's not under the covering of Adam, the serpent comes to her and convinces her of what she already has an inclination to in her soul. And that's called a useful idiot. It just repeats itself. So the dismantling of feminism through the South Node Libra was key to the reconstruction after the Uranus deconstruction. It was key. It could not be possible without passing through the Libra South Node, which dismantles and disarms feminism and liberalism. Because those are the pillars that upholds the Rothschild-Rockefeller design. Understand? So Uranus is finishing out this story with Taurus, and it's no longer in the mode of disruption so as to uproot and separate the soul from the artificial life paths of the corporate design. It now is going to utilize disruption, earthquake, volcano, okay, to align the soul, to realign the soul with the life path. Okay, so this is to take the vibration of the heart, soul, urge, expression and to realign it with the appropriate life path materialized through Taurus. That's the point now. That's the will now of Uranus. That is what it is out to do. So the conjunction of the sun with Uranus is for that reason. It's reading the sun or the heart. It's getting the calibration of the heart and pairing it with the life path. So it will cause disruption. It will cause sudden changes. Whatever it takes to realign the heart, soul, urge, expression with the life path. That is the point of Uranus. It will do so through shocking value. The lightning storm. And the lightning storm, as you understand already, is revelation. Revelation can happen very easily in sudden changes. And when you have that sudden changes, you have the realization of how it is an opportunity. You have a realization of the hand of God that is behind it. Realizing how, as a result of that change that you never could have anticipated taking place, you see that it is doing you a favor. You see that it's helping you. It's pushing you along. It's realigning you in a way that you never could have designed or strategized from your own intelligence. So revelation has to get involved with this. And you have certain sudden realizations of truth, sudden realizations of alignment between your heart and what opportunities you have to create in life that pairs it together, that makes your life to make more sense. That is what Uranus is helping to do. So that lightning storm is going to take place with the heart, with the soul, where revelation now comes down from heaven. That revelation is, I realize now where I need to go. I understand now what I need to do. And that may have to take something being taken away from you. That may take something has to be moved out of your way. Some distraction, some attachment, some burden, some limitations, something that has you preoccupied, something that has you going in the wrong direction. So Uranus is going to adjust that in a sudden motion in a way that you cannot anticipate. But when it does happen, it might disturb you at first. It might scare you at first, but it is simply an alignment. And that alignment, again, is to bring the heart in unity with the actual life path that you have for your soul's journey. That's what's taking place here. The life path is grounded at the Taurus location of the natal birth chart. It grounds our most valued spiritual resources with the heart, which is the sun, through the astral body or Venus / Taurus. Okay, so The astral body is what fills that space between the physical reality and the urge of the soul. It is the astral body. And that through Taurus. The astral body has that which you need to sense, to feel, to experience, for joy, for fulfillment, for pleasure, for a sense of happiness and satisfaction within the life. That is a Venus impulse, but it is through the material realm. So there are certain resources, a certain status. There are certain things that you must have or obtain. A level of self-esteem. Okay, this includes sense of value esoterically and exoterically, all the things of the second house. Fulfillment through wholesome pleasure, self-esteem again, as I mentioned, quality of life through obtainable success, realization of abundance through gratitude and a sense of presence, financial and traditional satisfaction. These are the things that Uranus lines us up for, but in consistency and in agreement with the life path. So this is what will come through the life path. What it means for it to come through the life path, it will come according to the theme and theory of your life story. If you don't know what that means for you, it's only because you have not yet scheduled a natal birth chart reading with me. That's why you need to get your personal reading so that you understand what that means for you. Because you could listen to this all day, but every person has their own natal birth chart, and there are specific details for every single person that you need to know about your life story and what that means for you. Your heart soul urge number has a specific numerological value. Your life path has a specific numerological value, and you have to make sense of it yourself and understanding what that looks like for you. Taurus is going to materialize that value. It is to materialize it, and it is not something instant. You are not going to be lazy, chew the cud, sit back and chill under the shade and say, God, bring me this or God, bring me that. It don't work like that. Taurus is about cultivation. You will cultivate what you realize through your astral body that you are supposed to experience. You will cultivate it. The astral body attracts. It is a force of attraction, the astral body. So you will attract it to yourself by pondering it, visualizing it, realizing it, remaining interested in seeing it come to fruition. If you do not cultivate it, you will not have it. Taurus works the same way that the earth does. If you're going to work with the earth, it is the exact same way that you work with Taurus. You do not put a seed in the earth and then just walk off and go about your business. You have to nurture the seed. And once the seed splits and comes above the earth, you have to protect it from rodents, bugs, or whatever else, weeds that may choke it out. This is the same thing as certain environments, certain thought processes, behaviors, characteristics, attachment, so on and so forth, that could choke out the seed of conception, the seed of conception that you have, that is the foundation of the life that you're going to build. You have to protect it, and you also have to nurture it. You have to cultivate that into a reality. This is about cultivation. Like in the times when Moses sent one of his officers out to see the promised land. He went out to the promised land and seen that there were giant fruits, and there were giant people. And he came back and reported and said there were giants in the land, but we are more than able. That means you have to go and fight for it. It's not just going to be given to you. How do you know what you have to fight? How do you know what you're fighting for? If you're not getting your natal birth chart readings on a regular basis, you have no idea what karma you have. You have no idea what your north node is supposed to mean for you and what fate is meant to come your way, or how to meet the fate with the heart soul urge. You don't know none of this stuff. So if you don't know none of this stuff, where are you going with it? You're punching in the dark. You're swinging and hoping that it lands. You're firing off with your eyes closed. Why waste your time? It's better to know than not know. Ignorance can be bliss, but it will cost you in the end, because some of you might be choosing ignorance because of the bliss that it gives you. But how long can you afford to do that before there's a penalty for such ignorance? There may be a penalty because you have access to know better. You have the option to know better, but you're choosing to sit back and go with the wind and say, oh, I'll figure it out. Good luck with that. So we understand what Uranus is doing. At these last degrees of Taurus, it's bringing in the alignment. It's bringing in the alignment. So, as I mentioned, in opposition is Juno. Juno is an opposition of the conjunction of the Sun and Uranus. Because we have Juno in opposition of the Sun and Uranus, this presents a balancing factor in what's taking place. So Juno is the balance to what's taking place at Taurus. Many misunderstand Juno as being about a relationship. It's about somebody who you love or who you care about, being in the arms of a person through commitment or monogamy. But I beg to differ. You should be careful, because as you know, many astrologers out there are teaching poetry. They're teaching romance. They're teaching sweet sayings. And if you're out there listening to these things, you will never understand yourself through astrology, because you have subscribed to the poetry. You fell for the poetry. Juno, more than anything, is about the commitments that you have with yourself. It's about the monogamy that you have active in your life for yourself. And what that monogamy means is it's a place in your life where you let nothing distract you. You let nothing come in between you and that particular commitment or focus. In the natal chart, it indicates where you have a lifelong focus or commitment, a devotion to a particular theme in your life. That's what lets you know that. In transit, it often can mean or indicate a soulmate, but very seldomly is that the case. More often, it lets us know where your commitments are evolving to, because your commitments in the active life, it changes, it evolves as needed. At some point in your life, your Juno may be in your first house, so that's a commitment to, focusing on your personality, focusing on your appearance, your health, your physicality, how you show up in the midst of other people. Going into your second house, your commitment could be on your finances and what that looks like, or your self-esteem. Third house, it could be with your siblings and community, or your vehicle. Okay, so as Juno goes around, it changes what your commitments are. So your commitments, my commitments, our commitments are in Scorpio. Also in Scorpio is Black Moon Lilith in Vesta. That is very important to know. You already understand what's going on with Black Moon Lilith in Scorpio. This has to do with shadow work. Vesta is to have devotion to that process, making a spiritual revolution of the process. Making a spiritual transformation of the process, realizing a spiritual significance in that process. It becomes very personal to the depth of the soul through Vesta. It becomes something that you teach from, something that you inspire others through because of Vesta, as you process and suffer through those necessary steps. What Juno is really all about is, because we had to learn during the Uranus transit through Taurus that our stability cannot be in things. It cannot be in our status. It cannot be in how much money we have. It cannot be in how much property we have. None of these things can be a source of stability. We learned that because of at the start of COVID. It taught us to remove our sense of stability from these type of things. So our sense of stability had to come back to the self, to the inner self. And with the sense of stability coming back to the inner self, we had to reconcile with everything that was about the inner self, which mostly is the inner child. That is why we had to make peace with the inner child, because when we come back to the self, the inner child is there. But what happens if you betrayed your inner child? You played your inner child. You exploited and exposed your inner child to danger. You rejected your inner child. You have to make peace with the inner child before that you could get anywhere with that and have peace in being in the self or with yourself. Otherwise, you turn into somebody who cannot have peace in the silence of the self. You're always running to get away from it and make enough noise where you don't have to listen to what inner child is saying to you. You feel guilty from it. You don't know what to make of it. So now that we have cleaned that up through the retrograde of Cancer Mars transit for 7 months, you have a place to go inside of yourself to make stability. You learn how to do that. Wherever you go, there you are. So Juno is about sticking to that, preserving it, honoring it, not throwing it away. Maintaining that commitment to yourself. Scorpio holds the constitution that you have with yourself. Scorpio is the guardian of your instincts. It's where your instincts are born, and it's where your instincts are programmed through the amygdala. The amygdala switch is at Scorpio. Okay, if you all can remember about amygdala, the fight or flight, it is programmed through Scorpio. When Pallas Athena was going through Black Moon, through Scorpio in direct retrograde and direct motion, that was a reprogramming of the amygdala for the collective. It was a reprogramming. Remember that Scorpio is one of the 3 courts. It is the second of the 3 courts. It is the court of eye for eye. It is the court of eye for eye. So anyway, Juno is here at Scorpio, telling us to maintain our commitment to personal transformation. Maintain our commitment to shadow work. We have to transform in order to become the character, the personality, the spirit, the frequency that brings in the new reality, that aligns with the life path. We have to transform to show up for it. Juno is in Scorpio, where that transformation takes place at. That is the point of stability. The point of stability is Scorpio. So how does this balance? At Uranus and Taurus, you have to take risks. You have to take advantage of opportunities. You have to be willing to change and adjust, even suddenly. It requires you to be a visionary and expose yourself to vulnerable circumstances so that you can seize opportunity, so that you can nurture that which you believe and know is to be your reality. So there's nothing consistent or stable about that process. It is a pioneer's process. It's something to cultivate. The land is not ready. The crop is not ready. So in balance, you have to have a point of stability as you work that. So the point of stability is Juno, the commitment to the transformation of self. At Uranus, at Taurus, it's about innovation. So it's stability versus innovation. Innovation at Uranus, Taurus, Uranus, and stability at the commitment to the self and the transformation of the self through Scorpio, Juno. This is important focus. Scorpio has a particular house that it rules in your natal birth chart, and it's important to know that as well. Because this is the area where your commitments have to be at. You cannot stray from that. At Taurus, that is where you have to be taking chances. That's where you have to innovate. That's where you have to be flexible and open-minded. That's where you have to anticipate opportunity from chaos. In every point of chaos, there's opportunity, and that's where you anticipate that at the Taurus placement. Scorpio Juno holds our commitment to the transformational process towards stability. Scorpio Juno's opposition to the Taurus Sun Uranus conjunction is a balancing influence. Stability and innovation, commitments versus risks, routine versus experimentation, instinctive loyalty to the self, and expansive vulnerability. In opposition, tolerance with the current circumstances and bravery to act upon new opportunities, honoring your duties and trust while investing in your vision and future possibilities. It's a balancing act. Now, Chiron will be entering Taurus in 2027. Okay? The role of Chiron is to bring healing after traumatic transformations and changes. That's what Chiron is to do. So Chiron follows behind Uranus in order to heal what its necessary and essential disruptions may have caused as casualties, traumas, woundings, and pains. Okay? Because there's no way that we are passing through the experiences of Uranus without taking hits and blows. We will suffer wounds, we will suffer trauma, so on and so forth. But Chiron is there following behind to make philosophy of the pain, to make new wisdom of the pain. So Chiron following behind Uranus is significant. Going through Taurus, this is going to have a lot to do with feeling the pain of inadequacy. The pain of I didn't get to have this and I didn't get to have that. I didn't get to do this and I didn't get to do that. The pain of lack. The pain of feeling like I didn't have enough. It's also the pain of the throat chakra, which is the voice. The pain of not having a voice when you really needed to have a voice. It's the pain of the second house. A wound to the second house. That means your self-esteem took a hit. Your sense of stability took a hit. And also your sense of values and normalcy took a hit as well. That confusion. So Chiron coming into Taurus 2027, we should really be prepared for financial challenges. The housing market as well. For people who were born from 1980 to 1983 or 84, this is a Chiron return. It's a Chiron return. So when Chiron goes through Taurus, it's going to be a hit to the economic, financial themes of the collective. It's going to be a hit to the housing market. So there is that destabilization coming as Chiron comes into Taurus. We could expect that. But as you know, it's different than when Uranus did it. Because when Uranus went through it, it caused disruption, but without the healing. When Chiron does it, it brings, it provokes the pains, but with a will to heal. That's how Chiron heals it. The way that Chiron heals is it causes you to revisit what causes you trauma and pain so that you could redefine it, so that you could give it a new meaning and a new definition. That is what healing is. Healing is not going to the spa, getting your nails done, spending money and trips and all. That's not healing. Healing is not becoming a vegan and bragging on social media on how much grass you ate today. That's not healing. Healing is having the courage to sit with whatever pain and trauma that you have and find a higher meaning for it, to interpret it in a way that's productive, to interpret it in a way that moves you forward in a courageous sense. To take whatever you went through and whatever you suffered and find constructive clues in it. Keys and elements that heightens your understanding about yourself and about the way that life works. Healing is painful, but it's full of philosophical revelation. It gives us new wisdom and medicine to administer. Only the wounded can heal. We should remember that. It's only the wounded who can heal. If you're not wounded, you can't heal nobody. Healing fills us with courage, compassion, and understanding. It teaches us forgiveness and unconditional love. It brings us to oneness and deeper connections that moves grace. We become full of grace, not always looking for a return in something, not looking for a gain. But when you can relate to the pain of another person, you're not always looking for a return or gain. You're full of grace. Healing destroys your karma, because karma is there as an instructor, is there as a teacher. It's a reality that you create that causes you to elevate in your understanding of how destructive you are being to yourself. That's karma. But as we heal, the karma is no longer necessary or required to change your frequency, to change your attitude or your behavior. So these processes are coming, but we shouldn't kid ourselves or be naive and thinking that the healing of Chiron is going to be a sweet trip of good things. It is going to be painful, because the healing process is very painful. Nurturing feels good, but healing is painful. It requires correction. It's like a broken arm. If it starts healing the wrong way, you have to re-break it, stretch it in order for it to heal properly. When healing is taking place, you find yourself in situations where pain is constant, where you're constantly feeling hits to your self-esteem. You're constantly feeling hits to your sense of confidence. You're constantly taking hits to how you feel about yourself. Emotional burdens are just overwhelming. You fall out into outbursts of anger, impatience. You feel full of rage. That's a person who's healing. A person who's healing looks like a rabid dog in a corner that is viciously biting at any hand that comes at it. That's a person who's healing. You guys have to stop listening to pretty girls who are in front of cameras on social media filling you up with a bunch of bull crap. They're telling you all these sweet poems and all these sweet sayings and things about their healing journey and all this other stuff, but really they just want attention. These females out there who are out there on social media talking about astrology, tarot cards, and everything else, they just want attention. And you have to learn how to stop listening to them, because they are misleading you. They don't know what they're talking about. Remember on these, let's see here. Okay, before I forget, also what's going on with this transit is that the moon, right after the conjunction of the sun and Uranus, we are going to have the moon conjunct Pluto. Now, where did you see that at before also? Okay. If you go to the very first video that I have on this channel, you will be able to hear about Venus conjunct Pluto direct out of Sagittarius into Capricorn. Okay, so when Pluto left Sagittarius going into Capricorn, Pluto was conjunct Venus. Okay, that was the beginning of the Obama era. Okay, that was the beginning of the Obama era. Now, this time around, when Pluto left out of Capricorn going into Aquarius, Pluto was conjunct the moon. Here is another lunar conjunction as this happens with Pluto. So it's including this reminder, especially as the moon is still at full intensity. Okay, as it's coming out of a full moon phase, it's still at a very high intensity. I would say around 89, 90%. It's still at full intensity conjunct Pluto. So this is part of shadow work again. It's taking what was culminated and revealing some hard truths. So some hard truths are going to be revealed. Hard truths, we can expect that. But at the same time, we're getting a lot of support with Pluto to have the resilience to deal with it. That support at the same time. Shortly after that, the moon will be in opposition to Mars. With the moon in opposition to Mars, that's more of a balance between our assertive will to express and our sense of compassion with the bigger picture, concerning those who we are connected with, because it's in Aquarius. So there's a great balance there of sensitivity. Like, share, subscribe, comment. If you have something constructive to say, share or ask, go right ahead. Remember, it's very important, all of you, to get scheduled for your natal birth chart readings, to regulate your natal birth chart readings, because the understanding is the best part. It's the most important thing.